Show you the guys who are headed to the NFL: Jordan Addison, Will Anderson, Kayson Boutte. But I want to go to the guy fourth on this list here, and Bryan Bresee. Blake, this is another player that you really like. We'll get your take on him in a bit, but we got to ask our NFL draft analyst first. What's the market for this guy? Where do you project him to go, Ryan?
So that's a great question, Emily, because there are mixed opinions, and you have to take this with the qualifier that Bryan Bresee had a lot of things in the off-field happen to him. His sister passed away, which is obviously horrible news. He had the ACL injury last season, which affected his ability to come back this year and be the dominant guy he is. So all those things taken under advisement, of course, and he could be like an early round 2 guy. He could be a top 15 guy, depending on which Bryan Bresee you think you're getting as an NFL team. And by all accounts, he's a great young man, and there's no concerns about any of the off-field issues. It's just a matter of if you're taking him top 10, there are very few guys that look like him physically and can do the things when he's laser focused and making plays that he does play in and play out. The issue is sometimes he goes missing for a series or 2 or 3, and you wonder, okay, which guy am I getting if I'm drafting 12th or 13th overall or wherever you're looking for an interior defensive lineman, and how is that going to play out? Now, one of the other issues you have to consider, and this is the thing that makes trying to figure this out so difficult, you have to consider the situation he's going to in the NFL. The coaching staff is in place. What do they think they can get out of him? And those are all the variables that have to go into this sort of math equation to determine where he ends up going. I didn't love Bryan Bresee's tape for 2022. I understand all the mitigating factors, and I'm willing to, on some level, let that be part of my evaluation. But right now I have him as a late 1, early 2, with the understanding that if he flips the switch, he could be a top 15 guy all day long.
Yeah, I think the big concern with Bryan Bresee is he's missed 13 games in the last 2 seasons. He's got a history of injuries. I think playing over the center for the majority of the snaps at center probably didn't help him either. I think he's more of a three technique at the next level. So I think that could help him getting in a natural position where he can kind of play on the edge a little bit more. He excels in movement. And Clemson moves their defensive linemen around a lot. The one thing that you saw with him in high school is he was just an elite pass rusher. You would see him dominate every single camp that he went to, and you just didn't see that at Clemson. You didn't see him sacking the quarterback like I thought he would coming out of high school. So I think if he gets to the right spot with a team that needs a 3 technique, then I think he could probably really excel in that situation. But if you're going to put him at as a shade or a 2-eye at the next level, I think he's going to have a problem eating up blocks because that's not really his game.
Yeah, 6'5", 305. We've also seen some Clemson defensive linemen have success in the NFL, so certainly take that into consideration. They have blazed the trail for him. Let's go to quarterbacks, guys. We're saving the best for last year. A lot of great quarterbacks entering the league, and I mean, I can't even go any further. I have to start with Will Levis. Today, our friend Ryan, who's on the show, had him mocked number 1 overall. Some trading involved in there, of course, Ryan, but just straight up, what is your reasoning behind Will Levis taken first in April's draft?
Emily, you sound like several folks on Twitter who were not happy about
I'm not the only one that has to be asking this question, Ryan.
You are not. That's right. So I had the Colts trading up to get Will Levis. And full disclosure, if I'm ranking my quarterbacks, it's Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and then Will Levis third, all going in the first round. And Anthony Richardson's in that conversation as well. So why is Will Levis going first in this latest mock draft that I did? Number one, I don't know what Jim Irsay is thinking because no one seems to know what he's thinking. And if it feels like he falls in love with a quarterback, whomever it may be, he's going to go get that quarterback, whatever the cost. It's obvious that the free agent market hasn't worked long-term in that post-Andrew Luck world in Indianapolis at the quarterback position. So it may be a situation where they're going to overpay if it happens to cost that to go get their quarterback. I'm not sure if they like Will Levis or not, but I will tell you this. There are several NFL teams that are high on Will Levis, much higher than fans and media folks are, because fans and media folks ended up watching the 2022 season And that raised a ton of question marks. And what I'm routinely told when I talk to scouts and folks around the league is, please go watch 2021. Understand that the offensive line wasn't very good at Kentucky, that the wide receivers were freshmen, that Chris Rodriguez was out the first 4 games of the season in the backfield. And, of course, we know that Will Levis was injured for most of the season, toe and shoulder. So all those things are complicating factors when you try to do this evaluation. And look, I get it. I get that he has the body type that you're looking for. I get that he has the arm strength. I get that he's actually really athletic, although it was hard to tell at times because of those injuries in 2022. I just don't know if I have a top 5 pick, if I'm going to go all in chips-wise with Will Levis. Now, there are questions about Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud too, of course, but that's the reasoning why I had Will Levis go that high, because the craziness factor when it comes to Jim Irsay, and NFL teams like Levis better than fans and some media folk.
Ryan, when you put Will Levis over Bryce Young, I was tweeting you from my burner account. I was one of those fans going crazy at you. I think Bryce Young has to be QB1 in this group. The way he throws the ball, the way he handles the pocket, he's already shown that he can run an NFL-style offense, and he's made just huge throws, looks flawless and polished at the quarterback position. I think that I will go with Bryce Young. If I was in that position, one thing that you did say, though, when Jim Irsay likes a quarterback, you bring up an incredible point. He does go all in and go after him, and maybe their quarterback of the future, they feel like is in this draft, but I will go with Bryce Young.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, in my opinion, that Bryce Young's the number 1 quarterback by a long shot. I would take him with the first pick, if not the Bears, obviously, but whoever's going to pick first that needs a quarterback. He's an elite processor, make every throw on the field, and just an incredible player that can do it all. You know, his only knock is his size. He is a smaller frame guy, but so is Kyler Murray, and he can do the same thing. So he's my number 1 player in the draft, and I think you'd be making a big mistake taking Will Levis over Bryce Young.
Agreed. And Ryan, I have to give you the benefit of the doubt here, though. Although I'm not the only one asking about why is Will Levis, mocked this high, you're also not the only one mocking him that high. So there's clearly some fascination and some excitement from NFL personnel about what he's capable of. The body size, the fact that he has played in an NFL-type system, was really successful back in 2021 under, offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. And so there is definitely some examples for why he could find some success. But another guy that I want to ask about, too, in terms of the upside, I think is the common word that we use when we talk about Anthony Richardson, because you see these little sparks, right? You see what happened in the opening game of last season when they played Utah. Absolutely spectacular. Then, of course, dropped off a little bit. Also, against Tennessee, he put up some great tape there. What are NFL personnel saying about him, Ryan?
Yeah, you're hitting the highlights, and that's exactly it. Like, I'm a huge Anthony Richardson fan, and I'll just say this, Emily: if Bryce Young were in Anthony Richardson's body, we would have zero conversations about any concerns about Bryce Young. Cool. And that's the only knock, as Blake and Coach Carl mentioned. But NFL teams are worried about the lack of experience, and that's the reality. And it's one of those things where you sort of wish selfishly that Richardson had returned to college for another year, because coming into the 2022 season, he had only attempted, I believe, 68 passes, sharing time with Emory Jones a couple seasons ago. And you talk about that Utah game where he looked like the best player on planet Earth. And then over the course of the season, there were some games where you're like, oh my God, this young man's been playing football for 2 weeks. Like, I don't know what's going on here. And those wild fluctuations is what scares NFL teams. Mm-hmm. And that's just the reality of it. Now, I think best case scenario for Richardson, and this isn't any sort of grand proclamation, but you go to a situation where things are good, not terrible. And by that, I mean, Brock Purdy in San Francisco turned out to be a pretty good situation for Brock Purdy. He was the last player selected. So if you're in the first round and you're picking towards the bottom half of the first round and Anthony Richardson's still there, and you think you have an opportunity to groom this young man and not throw him out there right away, that's best case scenario. I think that makes sense. So we'll see how it unfolds. I love this young man. I love the physicality he brings, his ability to win with his legs, and obviously his arm strength. But he does need more reps, and that's what NFL teams are going to have to take under consideration when they decide to make the pick on him.
I love that
what
you mentioned.
What scares me about Anthony Richardson is the lack of consistency in passing the football. And time again in the National Football League, we see these guys that played in college, and they're great dual threat guys. They make extreme plays running the ball. They throw well on the run, evading the pocket. But in the National Football League, it has been proven time and time again that to play quarterback at a high level, you have to be able to consistently throw the ball from the pocket and make reads in the progression. And I have not seen him consistently do that. And any quarterback that has not been able to make that transition has struggled in that league because the ability to run around in the National Football League isn't available to you the same way it is in college.